And we're back with the third installment in the faction strategies video with Anna and Wojtek from the Republic of Polania. And we have here resident Scythe expert, Mr. Sonny Fochori. Hello.
Hello. Thank you very much, Jad, for, I am assuming, your impression of a Polish accent.
I'm going to get hammered in the comments.
What? No, you're not. The internet is kind and understanding and wonderful.
I know. They keep sending me these such nice pictures in comments.
So, Polania faction.
Yeah.
Right. These guys are the adventurers of the Scythe universe because they're all about them exploration cards, right? What makes them so good? Well, you know, with all of these lovely exploration cards, yeah, and the game recommends, you know, you show the card like, oh, look at the artwork! Isn't that amazing? Wow! Wow! Look at this mech, it's like stomping people, right? Usually, the other lame factions get one choice. You're like, you gotta pick one.
But
these guys get two, which is amazing. Cannot be understated how powerful this can be. Now, I'm going to be honest.
Beautiful artwork.
It really is. It's incredible. Props to whoever designed all this artwork, seriously. The thing, though, is that these guys really need the help because in terms of their starting position, I feel like Polania are amongst one of the weakest factions on the board. And let's take a look at their starting on to see why. What resources do we have over here?
Grain, some wood, a somewhat distant village with an encounter.
That's right. So grain helps you recruit to get some, you know, power, popularity, coins, power cards. The big thing with recruiting is that these things are like mid to late game. Like you don't really need popularity right now. It's more of an end game thing, right? The cards, maybe. The coins, if you're running dry, sure. But recruit, bleh. Buildings are nice, but ideally you want to build them in locations that match the victory condition.
Victory condition over there, yeah, of course.
So you want to keep that in mind. Mechs and oil are the sex early on, and it's kind of hard to have the sex when there is no production of these things in your vicinity.
And there's no foreplay.
Well, I'm assuming you're playing 4 players, so yeah. Trying to keep it PG-13. Oh. Anyway,
you said sex.
That's true. So these guys really depend on their starting encounter card to see if they can get something that they don't have access to. Like one of the most powerful cards, case in point here, is getting a way to deploy a mech early on, right? Because with the lack of metal, you need to figure out a way to get the necessary resources to make that magic happen. So that's kind of their thing. It's an issue because, like, remember how we said 5 workers is like a good starting point for an optimal number of workers to get producing stuff because it's the least amount that you have to pay. For the Polania faction, before they can start making babies, they gotta take a move action and move the worker to the village, right? So this suggests or results in maybe you considering your first action to be a move action, just to get your faction going, so you can actually move a worker over there and move your hero over there. So
that next turn you can do something else, produce, then move again and get to that.
That's right. Yeah. I also feel like...
I'm kind of feeling that for those first 3 moves, you're probably not going to be doing your bottom action.
Yeah, I think Polania is one of the factions that will have some difficulty doing a bottom action unless it's wood or grain related, right?
At least for the first 3 turns.
Yeah, at least for the first. Of course, after that, it's hopefully you can pull that off. I also feel like Polania, outside of the randomness of their encounter card, really depends on trading early on to get the resources you need, right? So getting a mech is still kind of critical because it helps you move your workers around, helps you get out of your starting island, which is a thing that Polania has difficulty with, unlike the Nords and the Roosevelt Union who have other options to do so. It feels like they really need to take advantage of trade to get the metal they need to get their first mech out. So, maybe after moving, it's not a bad idea to either produce to start getting other grain and workers, or just trade to get the metal you need. That's something that you might want to consider.
What's the first mech you want to get out there?
Okay, so great question. Let's look at all these mechs.
What does Anna want to do?
So, as always, we have the +1 move speed, which I feel is not a good choice for her, precisely because of what we mentioned. She's kind of stuck on her island. Camaraderie is a fantastic ability for the mid-late game. The idea is you can enter a place of an opponent, and whereas when you scare off enemy workers, you lose popularity, these guys don't. So this allows Polania to push themselves around the late game, but early game, how do you get out of there? You have 2 choices. Submerge, which lets you move to or from lakes, and also from a lake to any other lake, which is cool. Or Riverwalk. I feel that because of the slow tempo that these guys have, and just trying to get the middle, trying to make things happen, Riverwalk is probably the best choice. Because if you get Submerge as your first mech, for example, and let's say your hero's already here by now,
you need to move to a space and then move to another lake space, and then from that space to move around. So basically you're gonna have to move here, and then from here you're gonna have to move there, and then you can.
That's right. Or you know, from the lake you can move out of the lake.
Out of the lake directly, yes. But I mean, if you're trying to get somewhere pretty far,
right? That might be a concern.
Yeah.
Certainly a good, maybe second, maybe third choice, I'd say, after the plus one.
After plus one.
Yeah.
To start with the Riverwalk. Maybe the one instance where
Riverwalk is actually like, okay, you might actually need this to help you keep up. And with the Riverwalk, you basically really only have one choice given all that's happened, which is the metal mine over here. So
which you still need the metal.
You still need the metal, but I've seen games where people would like lock that space up, and then Polania is like,
really?
Now what? Okay, I guess we're gonna start fighting early on. So it does kind of lock you into a suboptimal strategy, but that's their thing. Now the cool thing is, you know, there's access to quite a few encounter spots from here. So at least, and with the mine spot, you can kind of go almost anywhere. So that's nice. And as Polania, of course, you want to get that lion's share of encounters. So mobility is key, and how you get out there is critical. Alternatively, if you feel like your opponent, if you're playing against the Nords, who happen to start up here and may end up occupying this spot, you may feel like foregoing the mech strategy and just building a mine just to get you out of your starting spot is fine. And this is okay if you have a victory condition which is like, you know, building next to a mine, or something which is okay if you build your building somewhere in your starting location. Like for example, with this one over here, you could build your mine over here and still meet that condition because it's next to a mine. And now your hero is welcome to teleport anywhere onto the mine network and collect any nice, tantalizing encounters. And if you're going for this route of building a mine, instead of getting the Riverwalk mech, you should totally get the +1 speed, so your hero can quickly jump onto any of those spaces and grab those juicy rewards before your opponents get there.
Excellent.
That's right. So that's sort of the challenge of Polania. And many people get very complacent, thinking, "Oh, I'm going to make grain. I'm going to make wood. Where's my mechs? Where's my upgrades? Oh dear." So. Yeah, you have to sort of change your strategy.
You have to be opportunistic when playing the Polania.
That's right. Yeah. Another thing to consider is that Polania is one of the few factions in this game, aside from the Nords who can access everything, and I guess the Khanate, which would like this, who cares about recruits because they have access to grain very early on. So it kind of necessitates looking at your neighbors and seeing what they're doing. Now, we're going to assume we're playing a full player game, a 5-player game, which means your neighbors will be, in base game, the Saxony, I think they're called the Saxons, and the Nords up here. So you want to focus on what they're doing. Now, we'll get to the Saxons later, but looking at their side, you can see they're kind of like the Rusviets in that they're all about mechs and they're all about oil. So maybe getting an early recruit for one of those things would make sense. It can help boost you up a bit. The Nords are a bit hard to read, but you can look at their workers and see where they're going and then modify your strategy based as such.
Okay.
I should say that, you know, this is true for the Crimean as well. If you're planning on recruiting, you should probably recruit the recruit one first, because if you're going to be recruiting, you want to take advantage of the recruits you're going to be recruiting when you recruit. Recruitingly in the future. Okay, so that's sort of the thing there. Again, it's a means to boost your economy, but not they went on strike. I don't know what to say. Someone knocked them over. That was me. Okay, so that's for Polania. Your objective is figure a way to get off your island. Either hope that you get lucky with the encounter card you draw early on, that gets you a mech of some sort, maybe a free building to build a mine, or trade your way to get the metal you need to get the Riverwalk mech so you can leave your starting island. Or
and then race to get the encounters.
That's right. Or instead focus on getting the mine and then the +1 speed mech so you can zip around and pick up those encounters. That's right. I'll mention that
enlist every single
if that's something you'd like to go for sure. If it's worth a couple of coins, yeah, definitely. I will say that yeah, speed is of the essence for sure, but what's my point? Yeah, basically focusing on the coin. Oh yeah, that's right. In a more player, like a five or higher player game, like I think 6 or 7 with the expansion races, they did add this new basic ability where they upgraded this from just picking 2 encounters to, at the end of the game, each spot you control, which has an encounter symbol, whether it's been collected or not, is 3 extra coins, 3 extra victory points for you. So it's basically another like area control thing where, you know, maybe the Polanians are okay just giving up the factory to another faction if they can focus on securing those 3-point locations. And it can be a very powerful ability for like the Polanians to take an end game action, which is going to end the game, where they also spread their guys out to these 3-point locations to grab even more points by the end of it all. Okay. One last thing I want to talk about, which is the encounter cards. Now, you know, many people ask, you know, what's the best one to pick? With Polanians, you're thinking about which one should I not pick, because really you pick 2 out of the 3, right? I know everyone looks at the first top one and goes, oh, that's so cute. You gain a little something and a little popularity. Who cares? Popularity is an endgame thing, right? Wrong. No. Popularity is quite important. And I would recommend, unless the bottom 2 abilities are things that you cannot normally access, like this one, which is actually maybe a counter point to the example, because here you get resources, metal, and you can build a mech, more metal. Wow, so cool. It's always a good idea to think about taking the first option, being the nice guy, because that popularity really builds up in the long run. And I've had games playing as Polania where I'm like, oh, hey, I'm in the highest tier of popularity, and you guys are still at tier 2 or tier 3. Yeah, I'm just gonna end the game right now and win because I have a higher tier score than you guys. So.
Interesting.
Yeah, popularity is good.
Wow.
Okay.
Excellent.
That's it. Any other questions for Polania? Or?
That sounds about right.
Excellent.
So that's it for Polania.
Okay.
Next video, we're going to be doing
Saxons.
the Saxons.
The Germans, yeah. Okay.
Right.
See you guys.